Okay, grade 8s, we're going to move on to section 3.5, which is on ratios. So, what is a ratio? Well, quite simply, a ratio is a comparison. It's when you're comparing two quantities, amounts, two things, and it could be more than two as well. You could have, often it's 2 or 3, but you could have more than that as well. And it's important they have the same units. We'll talk about rate next class and next video, and in a rate they have different units, but in a ratio, same units. And there's 3 different ways that you can write a ratio. So just to give an example here, let's look at these 2 words here that I've highlighted, same and units. Let's write a ratio or a comparison between how many letters there are in each word. So take a look at same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's 4 here. And let's take a look at units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5. So the ratio of the letters in same and the letter of units is 4 to 5. You could literally write the word 2. Okay? So that's one way you can write a ratio. Another way you can do it is you put 4 colon 5, but you still read it 4 to 5. And a third way you could do it is you could write it 4 over 5. Hey, what's that look like? A fraction. It is a fraction. A fraction is a type of ratio. Alright, now it's important the order, right? Since I asked you the order of the ratio of the word same to the word units, you have to put 4 to 5. If I asked you the letters in units to the letters in same, you do the opposite. You do 5 to 4. And let's answer some questions. Oh, look at these amazing animals I have here. Got some, ducks, frog, cows. And I want to know what's the ratio of ducks to frogs. So make sure you do it in that order. Ducks, 1, 2, 3. Frogs, 1. You're finished. Or, I'm not going to write this every time. You could put 3 to 1 or 3 to 1 like that. I would say that the fraction is less common because in a fraction, this bottom number usually refers to the whole amount. So this 1 doesn't refer to all the animals, it just refers to one animal. So you wouldn't normally put the ratio in this form, but it's not wrong. It just gets a little bit confusing, I would say. Alright, frogs to ducks. Well, there's only 1 frog, and there's 3 ducks. Oh, you see, the point I'm making here is ducks to frogs is 3 to 1. Frogs to ducks should be the opposite way around, 1 to 3. Okay, so the order is important. Here's a 3-term ratio. We're comparing 3 things, ducks to cows to frogs. Well, ducks, there's 3. Cows, there's 2. Frogs, there's 1. So that is your 3-term ratio. Next, frogs to camels. Okay, frogs, I see 1 frog. And camels, I do not see any camels up here. Do you see any? I don't think so. So what does that mean? It means the ratio is 1 to 0. Or 1 to 0. I definitely would not write it this way because it looks like you're dividing by 0, and you can never divide by 0 in math. So, I would not do that in this case. Okay, frogs to other animals. Well, the number of frogs is 1. There's only 1 frog. And the number of other animals, so other animals besides frogs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 other animals I see in the picture. So it's 1 to 5. Next one, frogs to animals. Isn't that the same thing? 1 to 5 again? No. So the number of frogs is 1. When it says animals, it means all animals, like the whole number of animals. And that includes the frog. So you have to count the frog as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We include the frog in this case, and you get 6. So you could put 1 to 6, you could put 1 to 6, and you could definitely write 1 to 6 this case like that. Because remember, in a fraction, the bottom number refers to a whole, and that's exactly what the 6 is. It's the whole amount of animals. Okay, ducks to animals. So ducks, 1, 2, 3, and animals, we already counted them all up, there's 6. So we would write 3 to 6. But wait a minute. Does something look kind of weird about that ratio there? Something annoy you a little bit? Sure annoys me. You know why? Because it's not in lowest terms. Just like with fractions, you can put them in lowest terms. So let me write this all 3 ways. 3 to 6. 3 over 6. Look at that fraction. That is not in lowest terms. What would you do to put it in lowest terms? Divide top and bottom by 3. So in lowest terms, this would be 1 over 2. So same here, it would be 1 to 2. Divide these both by 3 and you get 1 to 2. Divide these both by 3, you get 1 to 2. Now what's that mean? Let's just look at this ratio for a second. Does that mean there's 1 duck and 2 animals total? Well, not at all. If you look up there, there's 3 ducks. So what does this mean? That means for every 1 duck, there's 2 animals total. Okay, it's a ratio. It doesn't mean there actually is only 1 duck. It means for every duck, there's 2 animals in the picture. Okay, let's continue on with putting them in lowest terms. So basically, it's just like what you did with fractions. If you wanted to put this in lowest terms, divide top and bottom by, well, you could do 2, but the better option would be 4. Then you'll get your answer in just one step. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3, and you're done. 6 to 18, what can you divide those both by? Okay, let's pretend you didn't pick the biggest number this time. Let's say you divide them both by 2. I just want to show you it still works. Of course it still works. If you divide that, you get 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. Make sure you take a look and see if it's now in lowest terms. And I can see it's still not in lowest terms. I can still divide them both by 3. And if you divide them both by 3, you'll get 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Oh, what do you know? It's the same fraction, same ratio, sorry, that we got in the first one. Of course, I could have gone straight from the 6 right to the 1 by dividing by 6, and from the 18 to the 3, divide by 6. But you don't have to do it in just one step. You can take 2 steps or 3 steps, whatever it takes to get to lowest terms. All right, last one. 5, 20, and 15, we want to put it in lowest terms. So you need a number that goes into all of them. Okay, so what's the biggest number that goes into 5, 20, and 15? Well, if you look down your times table grid or figure it out, I mean, it's a big hint. It ends with 5, 5, and 0. What kind of number always has 5 and 0 at the end? 5. You can divide them all by 5. So let's do that. 5 divided by 5, 1. 20 divided by 5, 4. 15 divided by 5, 3. And that's it. That's our lowest term, 3-term ratio. Okay, the last thing we have to worry about, and I already said this, in a ratio, the quantities being compared, they need to have the same units. However, when you write down the ratio, you don't include the units. So they have to have the same units, but then they just kind of cancel out. They drop away. If you look up here, it doesn't say, 4 kilograms to 12 kilograms or 6, I don't know, apples to 18 apples. It just is the numbers. So that's the way we want them to look, but you can only do that if you're comparing the same thing. So if you look in this first question, you have 5 weeks to 20 days. So you can't just write 5 to 20. I'm done. There it is. That's not fair because this is weeks and this is days. You need to have the same units. So what would probably be smart to switch them both to? I would suggest the smartest thing would be to switch them to days. Let's do that. So let's leave our 20 days, but let's switch this 5 weeks. Let's switch that to days. How do you do that? Well, how many days are in a week? 7. So if 1 week is 7 days, 5 weeks is 5 times 7, 35 days. So we have 35 days there. So our ratio is 35 days to 20 days. But wait a minute, remember what I said? You don't actually write the units. Once you have the same units, you can just eliminate them. So you end up with 35 to 20. Hold on a second now. We want it in lowest terms. This is not in lowest terms. What can you divide them both by? Well, look, ends with 5, ends with 0. It's that magical 5 again. Divide them both by 5. 35 divided by 5, 7. 20 divided by 5, 4. Okay, 5 weeks to 20 days. It's a ratio of 7 to 4. How about money? $1.80 to 40 cents. Same thing. Do not write $1.80 and then 40 or something like that. This is dollars, this is cents. We need to have the same units. What would be easier to switch? It's up to you. You could switch the dollars to cents, or you could switch the cents to dollars. I think I'll go dollars to cents, because then I'm not going to have any decimal points. That's going to be nice. So $1.80 is how many cents total? Every dollar is 100, plus another 80 is 180 cents. And we're comparing that to 40 cents. Great, we have them both with cents. So what can we do with the cents now? Get rid of it. We don't want to include the units. So our answer is 180 to 40, except for one thing. That's not in lowest terms. So how can you get it in lowest terms? Well, you might not be able to get it all in one go, but look, they both end with 0. So what does that mean you can divide by? You can divide by 10. So we'll do that first. Divide by 10, divide by 10. 180 divided by 10 is 18, and 40 divided by 10 is 4. 18 and 4 are both even. What can you divide those by? 2. So once we do this, I think we'll be in lowest terms. 18 divided by 2 is 9, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 9 to 2 is our answer. It's in lowest terms. You could have divided by 20 and done this in one step, but it's okay to take 2 or 3 steps. Don't worry about it. All right, last one. 120 seconds to 2 hours. I'll say it one more time. You cannot go 120 to 2. How come? Because we don't have the same units here. So this one's a little tricky. Seconds and hours. You could change your seconds to hours, and it's going to have some tiny amount. You could change your hours to seconds, and you'd have some really big amount. That's a good method, I would say, to change your hours to seconds. But there's probably an even better option. Do you know what the better option might be? Why don't you meet in the middle? Change your seconds to minutes, and change your hours to minutes, and then you'll have the same unit for both. I think that's probably the best option. So 120 seconds, how many minutes is that? You know how many seconds are in 1 minute? 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So 120 seconds equals, if you can't figure that out, you know what you can do? You can actually cross multiply when it's written like this. You could multiply these. 120 times 1 is 120. Divide by 60, you get 2. 120 seconds is 2 minutes. Okay, 2 hours. How many minutes are in an hour? 1 hour equals 60 minutes. We have 2 hours. Look, you could again cross multiply if you want. 2 times 60 is 120. Divided by 1 is still 120. But you probably know already that 2 hours is 120 minutes. Awesome, we now have the same units. So what do we do with the units? Get rid of them. We get the answer 2 to 120. Happy with that answer? No way. We want to put it in lowest terms. Divide them both by 2. And if you do that, you will get the answer 1 to 120 divided by 2 is 60. 1 to 60 is our answer. All right, everyone, that's ratios. I hope that makes sense. Next day we'll talk about rates, which are very similar to ratios. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.